President Donald Trump has just confirmed the single most destabilizing assassination of the 21st century. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, is dead, found under the rubble of his Tehran compound after a massive joint U.S.-Israeli strike. This is not just a Middle Eastern conflict anymore. This is a 24-hour warning for every American because the retaliation will directly target the U.S. dollar and the homeland. Now, let us strip away the moralizing and the diplomatic theater. In the world of real politics, power is the only currency that matters. What we are witnessing today is not a spontaneous escalation of hostilities. It is a highly calculated decapitation strike designed to fundamentally rewrite the balance of power across the entire globe. President Trump announced this operation as the greatest chance for the Iranian people to take back their country, while Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pointed to the 30 bunker-busting bombs dropped on Khamenei's underground complex. The military operation, dubbed Epic Fury by Washington and Lion's Roar by Jerusalem, utilized over 200 fighter jets in the largest military flyover in the history of the Israeli Air Force. But do not be fooled by the lofty political rhetoric of liberation and democracy. This is strictly about raw, unadulterated hegemony. For nearly 4 decades, Iran has been the primary architect of the Axis of Resistance, a sprawling network of proxy militias designed explicitly to bleed American and Israeli influence out of the Middle East. By eliminating the supreme religious and political authority, the 86-year-old cleric who held this entire intricate apparatus together, Washington and Jerusalem are gambling heavily on a sudden regime collapse. They are betting that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, will splinter in a chaotic power vacuum. But the reality is far more dangerous. The CIA itself assessed just days ago that killing Khamenei might simply hand total, unchecked control over to the most extreme, hardline elements of the military. We are not just removing a leader, we are potentially unleashing a military dictatorship with nothing left to lose. The hypocrisy of the international community right now is absolutely staggering. If you look at the statements coming out today, European leaders are publicly calling for restraint and diplomacy, warning against regional escalation. Yet, behind closed doors, these same European capitals are quietly hoping this strike permanently neutralizes a major adversary. Everyone plays the geopolitical game, but nobody wants to admit to the brutal rules of engagement. Let us look at the map, because in geopolitics, geography is destiny. Picture the expanse of the Middle East in your mind. Right in the center, you have Iran, a massive mountainous fortress of a country. To the far west sits Israel and the Mediterranean Sea. For 200 Israeli and American jets to strike Tehran, they had to cross hundreds of miles of sovereign airspace. They had to fly over Jordan, Syria, or Iraq. This geographical reality tells you a hidden truth. The Sunni Arab states tacitly allowed this strike to happen. They want the Shia power in Tehran dismantled just as much as Washington does. But look south on the map. Look at the narrow, vital choke point of the Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz. 20% of the world's daily oil supply flows through that tiny sliver of water. Iran has already fired retaliatory missiles at United States military bases in Bahrain, Kuwait, and Qatar. Look at where those bases are located on the coast. They are sitting ducks right on the edge of the Gulf. If the surviving leadership of the IRGC decides to close the Strait of Hormuz in retaliation for Khamenei's death, the geography dictates that the global energy market will experience an immediate catastrophic shock. The borders and waterways drawn on this map are not just lines in the sand, they are the literal tripwires for the global economy. Which brings us to the core issue, the American national interest. Why should a citizen sitting in Ohio or Texas care about the rubble of a palace in Tehran? Because the liberal international order, the financial and security system that guarantees American wealth and the American standard of living, rests heavily on 2 foundational pillars: undisputed military supremacy and the absolute dominance of the United States dollar. This assassination is a direct, existential test of both pillars. President Trump has issued what amounts to a 24-hour warning urging the Iranian public to seize control of their government before the IRGC entirely consolidates its grip on the nation. But that window of opportunity is rapidly closing, and the blowback is already beginning to materialize. Iran's retaliation will not just be kinetic or military, it will be deeply economic. For years, intense United States sanctions have systematically starved Tehran of dollars. We have triggered a massive currency crisis in Iran, placing restrictions on dollar transactions and trapping billions of their oil revenues in foreign banks. Now, cornered, leaderless, and facing a total collapse, the remnants of the Iranian regime have absolutely nothing left to lose. If they successfully strike the vulnerable oil infrastructure of American allies in the Gulf, or if they trigger a prolonged, grinding regional war that shuts down commercial shipping, the price of crude oil will skyrocket overnight. This translates directly to crippling inflation at the American gas pump and in the grocery store. It's a deliberate, asymmetric strategy designed to break the political will of the American voter. They cannot defeat the U.S. military in a pitched battle, so they will attempt to bleed the American wallet. We are currently watching great power competition play out in real time with live ammunition. Washington is attempting to violently rip Iran off the geopolitical chessboard before adversaries like Beijing or Moscow can solidify their own spheres of influence in the region. The cold calculation in the Oval Office is that a short, brutal decapitation shock will ultimately prevent a long-term, drawn-out war. But decapitation strategies are notoriously unpredictable, and they often spawn insurgencies that last for generations. We are risking a scenario where decoupling from the Middle East becomes impossible. So, what exactly should Washington do now? The United States must ruthlessly prioritize its strict national interest over any temptation for nation-building. The administration must immediately pivot major naval and air assets to secure the Strait of Hormuz, creating an impenetrable shield around the global energy supply to prevent IRGC sabotage. There should be absolutely no American boots on the ground in Iran, no trillion-dollar occupation, and no attempts to install a puppet government. We must maintain our global hegemony by controlling the vital sea lanes and protecting the purchasing power of the dollar, not by acting as the police force for the streets of Tehran. Before we conclude today's analysis, a quick question to test your understanding of the region's geopolitics. Which critical body of water connects the Persian Gulf to the Arabian Sea, serving as the world's most important oil choke point? Is it A, the Suez Canal, B, the Strait of Hormuz, C, the Bab el-Mandeb, or D, the Bosporus Strait? Leave your answer in the comments below. In geopolitics, there are no permanent friends and there are no permanent enemies. There are only permanent interests. The assassination of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has abruptly opened a dangerous and unpredictable new chapter in global history, and America must navigate the coming fallout with cold, calculating realism. Thank you for listening.